Video gamers face tournament drug tests, reported the BBC and many other outlets. You can find a link to this full article in the video's description, but for now here's the gist of it. Corey Friesen admitted to taking Adderall during a tournament, and now the Electronic Sports League is looking to fight doping, which is allegedly a big problem in esports. And I can't say I'm surprised. When there's money on the line, you're under pressure, and there is a physical element involved, people are going to do whatever they can. While cheating sucks, I do find it kind of cool that esports now has this in common with traditional sports. You want to play CSGO? You're gonna have to go in a cup. Over the past few days that I've been aware of this story, it has fueled many shower thoughts, like, what if being a gamer has nothing to do with what you play or how much you play, or even how interested you are? What if it's about how you approach these things? I am going to present a couple different angles on this. What makes something a game? Just speaking colloquially, I know that there are all sorts of crazy directions you can go in, looking at parts of nature as games and things like that, but I'm just talking everyday language, just chatting with you about this. Does it have to be challenging? Perhaps it does. Maybe if books were hard to use, if we found it a challenge to turn the pages, the game would be shifting sheets of paper and then the reward would be the story. Is reading an ebook on my Kindle a game? You know, it simulates a book. I have to press a button to turn the page, and then I've completed it when I've pressed that button enough times. My immediate reaction asking myself that is no, but then I asked myself why not, and I came into a little bit of trouble, because my gut tells me that Cookie Clicker is a kind of game. It is testing my endurance. How many times can I click it? And if I open up an ebook reader on my computer, the exact same movements could be used to get a score in Cookie Clicker as could be used to finish a book. My current thought is that the difference is how I approach them. With the book, that is just the system by which I progress through the pages. I'm not trying to turn it into a game where I click, but I guess if I wanted to, I could use an ebook like that as a game, whereas Cookie Clicker presents itself as a game, so it's very easy for me to play it as a game. Sounds very simple and very dumb, but I hope it makes sense. What if reading an ebook were more of a challenge? What if I had to turn the pages to a rhythm? Would that then be a game? And would it be a game because that's a game? Or would it be a game because I recognize that it's a challenge and I'm then trying to beat it? Whereas turning a page normally is trivial, so I'm not even thinking of it in terms of this is something I've got to beat. But like I said, I could think of it like that. It just doesn't encourage me to. I could approach it the same way I would approach Cookie Clicker. Hopefully you're with me and I don't sound like a raving lunatic at this point. Let's take it the other way. Let's take something my gut would tell me, yeah, this is a game. Let's say Candy Crush. It enforces a set of rules and presents a challenge, and I don't think anyone would find moving from level to level, particularly timed levels, as trivial as pressing the button on an ebook reader, which still does have a set of rules, remember. My Kindle actually is set up so that you press a button to turn a page and a progress bar fills. When you complete a book, it is added to your completed books, whereas with Candy Crush, you probably are doing it just to beat the levels, or at least you might think people would. It makes sense. It presents a challenge. You aren't playing it to see the next levels, you're playing it to beat the levels. The joy surely comes from beating that system, from gaming it. But I don't think everyone does truly approach it like that. I am becoming increasingly convinced that there are people who play with it as a toy, rather than play it as a game. And that the way I would approach it is fundamentally different to the way someone who purely wants a bit of engagement to pass time would approach it. Now I'm going to ask again. Please don't think I've gone insane. Just because we call something like Candy Crush a game doesn't necessarily mean all interaction with it is gaming. And while I believe the way it is set up encourages that sort of approach, and it does even force you to go through the motions of gaming, it doesn't force you to take the right approach. Not to say that there is anything wrong with playing with a game as a sort of toy. So going back a bit, I used an ebook reader as an example of something that does not encourage you at all to look at it as a game, but you could use it as a game. Let's take something that might seem to make more sense. A deck of cards. You could straight up play with a deck of cards. You could roll it around in its box. Is that playing a game? I don't think so. You could arrange them and set up a game of solitaire, sticking strictly to those rules and maybe even trying to beat it as fast as you can. Are you gaming then? I'd say yes, almost definitely. What if you set up a game of solitaire though, and then just dick around? Are you gaming? I don't think so. Of course, you could take the Candy Crush pieces and draw them on pieces of paper and do the same thing, instead of playing cards. Okay, so now let's take the idea of solitaire into video games. I would be extremely surprised if you have not played solitaire on your computer. What you've got there, rather than just a deck of cards, you have sort of got a deck of cards that will not allow you to interact with it outside of the rules of solitaire. Does this mean all your interactions with it are you gaming and playing solitaire? I don't think so. I think it strongly encourages you to do so, but I also think it allows people who are not actually doing that to almost create the illusion that they are gaming. They will learn the rules, they'll get good at it, they will beat tons of instances of games of solitaire, but they're not looking to game solitaire. They're just looking to play with it and its rules. Whereas there are other people who would approach it to get good. And I'd suggest that if you're into thinking about this like I am, that could be one way to think about gamer. They could be considered one who games, rather than one who plays with games. Gamer could be something of its own, rather than a modified version of player. Which, yeah, can sound fucking nuts, but I hope you get what I mean. Okay, back to doping if you haven't closed the video by now. This is the other angle I'm looking at. How much of the granular interaction counts as gaming? How much does that make it a game? And this is coming at it from the angle of game versus puzzle. Are they two separate things? And where is the line drawn? This brings us to my other shower thought brought on by this news story. What if, to decide whether what you're doing is gaming or solving a puzzle, you asked yourself, would doping make me better at this? You know, next time you're playing something, just ask yourself, if I took Adderall, would my performance likely improve in terms of the rules of what I'm engaging with? For example, a regular Candy Crush level. I would say no. If I remember correctly, you have all the time in the world, just think about it and do it right. The actual interaction, moving the pieces, is trivial, and doing it faster doesn't matter, so a performance-enhancing drug probably wouldn't affect the outcome. You are just solving a puzzle. Now, the timed levels where you have to focus and do it faster, yeah, Adderall may well help. You are gaming. Going back to the earlier example of solitaire, I think the same idea applies. In Candy Crush, which has been my go-to, you figure out what you want to do and then you do it, and doing it is trivial. In a platformer, however, you may be able to easily figure out what you have to do, and then there is challenge in doing it. Taking a performance-enhancing drug that helps you to focus may improve how well you execute what you've figured out you need to execute. So, you are gaming, and not just solving a puzzle. Using arrow keys to look around a house, to see funny items and listen to audiobooks, you can't really get better at that. So there we have it, kids. Want to know if you're actually a gamer or just someone who plays games? Ask yourself, would doping improve my experience of the hobby? If you say yes, welcome to the club. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions. Don't actually start taking prescription drugs that you shouldn't have.